This is the You, Me, and BTC podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Welcome to day 9 of the 12 days of YMB Christmas. For today's special, we reached out to the Bitcoin community and asked for some thoughts about the past year in Bitcoin. The specific question was this: in your opinion, what is the most important way in which the Bitcoin world has changed or grown in the past year, and why? These are your responses. Before we get started, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Rollin.io, for supporting our giveaways and this entire event. Visit Rollin.io to try out the provably fair Bitcoin dice site with a house edge as low as 0.6%. Today's hashtag is YMB Voices. Send a tweet to @YouMe and BTC with the hashtag YMB Voices, and you'll be entered to win some awesome prizes, including Bitcoin, silver, and a pound of home-roasted coffee from Jon Stewart. Here we go.
I'm Muhammad Irfan from Calicut, India. I believe bitcoins have made a drastic turn in the way people look at it. It's no longer that piece of technology that's restricted to geeks and nerds online. We got lots of merchants and startups making the use of bitcoins more easier. For example, one of the platforms that I like is changetip.com, which is a site that allows people to tip each other without the hassle of using a Bitcoin address. It's sort of like an online wallet. It's used to tip small amounts of money in a nice and convenient way. This has been employed widely over Reddit, and I think it has become something of like a de facto standard to exchanging Bitcoins on that platform. The another thing I noticed was the increase in adoption by big companies like Microsoft and Fiverr. Microsoft uses it started accepting bitcoins to fund a wallet that can be used for buying stuff on Windows Store. Now, this is a big thing, a company like Microsoft acknowledging and accepting decentralized currency. Like, imagine if you're at a payment gateway and you see the Bitcoin icon and you're like, oh, I'm not aware of this payment method, and you try and look into it and find more information. I think that's a huge step for Bitcoin.
Hi, my name is Nigel Lentis, and I am a journalist for the Bitcoin news site Bitcoinist. Today I'm here to answer Daniel's question, that is, in your opinion, what is the most important way in which the Bitcoin world has changed or grown in the past year, and why? I believe the answer to that question is the fact that Bitcoin has moved from ever more from the early adopter stage to the early mainstream phase. Take, for example, the Bitcoin subreddit, which is now sitting at rank 193 with a total subscriber count of 145k. Daily transactions, wallet count, hash rate, and difficulty have all increased. This shows that while Bitcoin's price may be down 50% this year, more people are adopting and using Bitcoin every day, which is what people new to Bitcoin don't understand. They see it as an investment, but it is more than that. It is a community, a bold economic experiment that is more versatile than any traditional financial experiment.
There are a number of things that I believe have impacted Bitcoin this year. In the beginning of the year, around January, we were coming off those November highs of around $1,100 per Bitcoin. That really put Bitcoin on the map for a lot of people in the financial community. I noticed seeing more segments on CNBC, Bloomberg, and other financial media about Bitcoin. Another important thing that happened in 2014 was the government auction of the Silk Road Bitcoins seized from the Dread Pirate Roberts. That kind of gave legitimacy to Bitcoin because it was being sold by the government as an asset. Other things that are important were big merchants coming in and adopting Bitcoin like Overstock, Newegg, and ultimately Microsoft being the biggest. If that isn't a justification for the Bitcoin network to succeed. I don't know what it is. Also, there are a lot of big sponsorships occurring in Bitcoin. BitPay is sponsoring a bowl game in Tampa on the 26th of December. That will put Bitcoin on the national stage also, with a lot of sports fans becoming accustomed to it. So to wrap everything up, I think Bitcoin's had a great year. The price really hasn't appreciated as much as people thought it would, but the fact that there are more transactions than ever is just all the more justification to keep the experiment going.
Bitcoin is designed to allow its users to send and receive payments. This is shared between all the devices on the network and can process a much higher number of transactions per second. Bitcoin allows money to be secured against theft and loss using very strong useful mechanisms such as encryption and multiple signatures. The more such uses are discovered, the more Bitcoin is gaining maturity and continue to grow.
My name is Robert Janito. I'm from Wall of Coins, wallofcoins.com. In the last year, one of the most important ways that Bitcoin has changed or grown, there are many ways, but how about in the ways of its use cases and its applicable part? More developers are understanding how to use Bitcoin without spamming the blockchain, but how to use Bitcoin for other services. Because Bitcoin has many use cases. And with colored coins, Blockstream, like Blockstream.com, I think these are a great way to help push the world forward in ways other than Bitcoin itself. Sort of, the internet inspired so many different models and changes. This last year, many developers saw that way to have the world grow from Bitcoin's influence. One thing I thought was great, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Mark Karpels. I think one really good thing was really Mt. Gox going away. It gave an example of a currency, such as Bitcoin. It gave an example of how, when that company went away, it was very sad for people who had Bitcoin with Mt. Gox. And we'll see what comes out of that. A really positive thing that happened was, with Mt. Gox dying, so to say, you didn't find a bunch of taxpayers obligated, whether they liked it or not, to bail them out. And I think that was a really good example of the benefits of Bitcoin, is that, in the United States, you had many banks bailed out, and that really hurt the U.S. economy. What happened with Mt. Gox is a good example where, hey, you have to trust the companies you work with instead of having everyone suffer. Let's move on from this. And Mt. Gox didn't get bailed out, and I think it's a good example.
Hello guys, myself Brijan. I'd like to thank Daniel Brown for conducting the podcast on Bitcoins on occasion of 12-day YMB Christmas event. About the question, I feel that Bitcoin has changed and grown over the past year because of the wide range of merchant adoption, especially Overstock and Microsoft bringing in Bitcoin as a payment processor. So I feel that a lot of users are going to get excited by this, and I think that the larger the Bitcoin adoption by various large merchants of similar scale, Bitcoin is really going to grow in the coming years, and Bitcoin has a good future. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Josh, and I'm a college student in Colorado. And just to touch on what you guys have been talking about this evening, what I think the most important way in which Bitcoin world has changed or evolved in the past year is just the fact that kids my age actually know what Bitcoins are. year ago this time, people would look at you like you were crazy. But now people have heard of Bitcoins. People know what's up. People are starting to get more involved. And I have a feeling that, especially speaking as someone from the younger generation, I think it's something that can be used more and more in our lives in the future.
Hello, Yumi and BTC. It's a pleasure having me on the show. Peon Miner here. As someone that's followed Bitcoin as well as cryptocurrencies for well over a year, going on 2 years now, I have to say I've seen quite amazing things. Most notably, instances such as Trendon T. Shavers, who is the founder and operator of Bitcoin Savings and Trust, was, also known as Pirate or Pirate at 40, quote-unquote raised 700,000 Bitcoins in investments, over 4.5 million at the time, subsequently was charged with running a Ponzi scheme. This being brought to the District Court of Texas was just the beginning of a mass of cases and such that were brought up in the news, bringing Bitcoin into the light, which of course brought Washington into everything. Ultimately, they were understanding that Bitcoin is not inherently something that is illicit, but there was a lot of work to do. With all of the commotion going on in Washington, Bitcoin, of course, skyrocketed, which was amazing to see considering the 3 years prior I had worked in gold and silver industries, watching markets closely, which actually is one of the main reasons I got into cryptocurrencies. Seeing Bitcoin so close to the price of an ounce of gold was just absolutely astonishing. Another thing that affected this was the big bust of Silk Road, which, amazingly enough, the guy was able to be tracked by multiple forum accounts, some on Bitcoin Talk, oddly enough. That's another story, though. Which has really transformed Bitcoin into a valuable asset in one's portfolio, ultimately. I mean, many major sites, mainstream sites, are beginning to accept Bitcoin as a alternate form of payment, which is ultimately one of the main goals, I'm sure, of Satoshi, and of course the community as a whole. Another thing we've seen is many more troll busters. Everybody's becoming the average day troll buster because it's becoming more evident what is a physical, real provider to the community and the other people that are just out there to sham. Anyway, thank you for having me, and good luck on your podcast.
Hey there, Bitcoin community. I'm Small. Well, my name is Small on the Bitcoin Talk forums, so be sure to catch me there. So Yumi and BTC asked a little question. In your opinion, what is the most important way in which the Bitcoin world has changed or grown in the past year, and why? Well, the big bang of Bitcoin started when more and more people accepted Bitcoin. Pirate Bay accepted Bitcoin donations, Dell accepted Bitcoin for their products, and most recently Microsoft too. Well, you can't really blame them since that's it, it's the future. And Bitcoin pretty much decided it wanted to be part of it. So some reasons why people want Bitcoin is because it's global, it's online, and a lot of people accept it. And the more people that accept Bitcoin, the better the value. And it's turned into a cycle after that. The value raised, more people got attracted to Bitcoin, the more people accepted Bitcoin, and back to the value raising. If I remember clearly, last year, Bitcoin's price went up to about $1,000 and stabilized back to $350. Quite sad though. Hopefully it goes back to the $500 mark. But it'll be a bigger chance if even more companies, especially big ones like Microsoft, start to accept Bitcoin. Hopefully in my country too, since I live in the Philippines. One day I dream that Bitcoin will attract my country's companies too, and more people would start using it, and the value would raise to its former glory. Hope you guys have fun with your Bitcoin. Spend well, and spend smart. Well, that's it for now. Find me on Bitcoin Talk and Coin Chat is small.
Thanks for listening to our 9th Christmas special. We'll see you tomorrow for Day 10.